Y'all, good people of the Red Dirt Riviera and the rest of you Okies who don't get to live in this awesome place of Stillwater, America. We thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pastors of Pain. And, unfortunately, Father Brian O'Brien was not able to be here again.
He gone.
He gone.
He ain't here.
So we substitute in. Oh, applause!
Well, the crowd is clapping. We can't control them.
That is
wow.
I that is not canned laughter or clapping.
That was not us.
That was someone else stepped into the studio and applauded.
Well, it might be an upgrade. We'll see. It could be a downgrade. So
wow.
We'll see.
Well,
the crowd decide.
He usually keeps me on the straight and narrow. But you're German, through and through. Right, your mother's German.
Yeah, she is.
Your dad is just a white guy.
Good old Okie.
Good old Okie. Whoa, wait. Oh, that's right. Because y'all what would be like? Oh, never mind. I was going to ask you what would be the phrase for an Okie, like a redneck in German, like a hillbilly, like people from the good.
I mean, they would just presume that
good
person was
good salt of the earth Americans.
Well, I mean, most Germans have no idea where the heck Oklahoma is. They presume that you're from Texas.
Texas.
Every time I'd talk or if I'd say howdy or y'all, they'd be like, where are you from? Are you from Texas? I'm like,
Texas?
Yeah, sure. It's around Texas.
Texas?
That's how they say it. That's how they say it.
What is like a person in German, like someone who's just like salt of the earth, like they live off the grid. They're just like good.
Well, I mean,
well-founded people.
I don't know. I'm just a farmer. But
no, in German. Don't they have like an idiomatic expression? You speak 100% German.
I mean, I speak German, but I can't think of that off the top of my head. I don't exactly.
I don't even know if you.
Granola
I don't even know if you speak German anymore.
Ich spreche Deutsch. Es ist meine erste Sprache, aber wir benutzen es nicht, weil wir sind am Radio hier im USA.
I have no idea what you do.
Is that what you want to do?
I heard I speak German, and Father Kerry is my favorite priest on the planet.
That sounds like you have failed in an interpreting gift. You do not have the gift of interpretation.
He's witty, y'all.
All right, so what are we doing here today?
Okay, well, anyway, this is the Pastors of Pain podcast,
yes,
but it's a pastorless pain right now.
Right now, we just have well, you're a pastor.
I am.
Yeah.
It's
a
plural.
Pastor and friend.
It's
pastor and friends.
Pastor and friends. That's what the last episode turned into. I'm still feeling sort of like the aftershock of Gretchen and Alicia in the studio. Woof.
Yeah, it was a jolt.
Brother.
They're fun.
They are. You see, this is the beauty of college campus ministry, that you get to meet good, fantastic young people.
Yeah, it's really
these
encouraging.
young women. The beauty of their friendship was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was
because that's what we wanted people to know. Like, you carry your friendship throughout the day, just like you carry your faith throughout the day. You don't compartmentalize it and say, "Oh, you know what? My faith is for church or for prayer. My relationship with God is for church or for prayer." No, I like Father O'Brien's not here, so I can say stuff about John F. Kennedy. When he said, "I will not allow my Catholic faith to affect my life as being a president," you're like, bro. Like, where did you learn that from?
Yeah.
So now I'm like, I don't allow my Catholic faith to get involved with my relationship with my employees, like the life of virtue or kindness or the Beatitudes, the 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. I say, I got a meeting today with my janitors, with my cleaning staff, with my development group, with my focus missionaries. You know what? I'm not going to allow the life of God to be in there.
Right. Makes no sense.
It makes no sense. What was Kennedy saying? He also said, "Ich bin ein Berliner," didn't he?
Yeah, I think that was him.
Isn't that?
Wait, or was that Reagan? No, that might have been Reagan.
No.
That was Kennedy.
That was Kennedy.
Okay, yeah. Well, he said he was a jelly-filled donut. So maybe he should have put his foot in his mouth a couple more times. I don't know.
Is a Berlin?
But in his defense, he also had some unbelievable speeches, and he did some good things.
Yeah.
He did some really good things.
But is a Berliner a jelly donut?
It's like a donut that has like some jelly in the inside. Yeah. So it's a kind of donut. Like if he was to say like ich komme aus Berlin or ich war geboren in Berlin, like I was born in Berlin or I come from Berlin, but to say like ich bin ein Berliner, it's like I am this item, this donut.
He's not saying I am a Berliner too.
Right. So he got it wrong.
He got it wrong.
All right, what are we going to talk about today? You brought me on here.
Oh, uh-huh.
You got ideas?
I do. It's it's the year of St. Joseph.
It is. I know.
Have you ever been you went to seminary in St. Louis?
Yes.
Did you ever go to the Shrine of St. Joseph?
I actually didn't.
It's amazing.
Well, part of it was because the year and a half that I was there was kind of COVID crazy. So we were kind of on lockdown a lot of the year. So I didn't get to know St. Louis as much as I would have liked, but I've heard about it.
It's in the German part of St. Louis.
Okay.
Like it is in the old German part, and it's amazing church, so beautiful. It was restored to its glory after it had the Germans had left that part of town during after World War I and before World War II. During World War I, they scattered. And they just there was persecution. It was they say half the city of St. Louis spoke German in 1911. Yep. And then World War I broke out, World War II broke out, and the Germans just went everywhere to get away.
Just kind of underground. A lot of them changed their last names because they just didn't want to be known or associated. I mean, kind of rightly so with everything that happened. They were getting a lot of discrimination against them. So you'll hear a lot of people that their last names will have changed them or kind of anglicized them and made them not sound German. So
Robert Williams.
Well, my name's pretty darn Welsh. My dad's Welsh, so I've got the most Anglo name ever, Robert Thomas Williams. So I always say I have 3 first names and an S. But
and what's your mother's maiden name?
Marion Friederike Fischer. So
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was clearing my throat there.
Friederike Fischer?
Yeah, Friederike. It's the feminine form of Frederick, and then Fischer is a classic German last name. It's literally means those who fish, a fisherman.
Frederick the Fisherwoman.
Yeah, Frederick Fisherwoman. So,
I love
she's quite a saint. She's a little fisher of men, and she's a good evangelist.
She's holy woman. She has a beautiful soul. And then, so in the Shrine of St. Joseph, to go back to this, is this beautiful statue of St. Joseph right smack at the center. And above it says, Ite ad Joseph. Yeah. Go to Joseph.
We actually have that in our chapel too. So at Kerry Glennon, our seminary chapel is the St. Joseph Chapel, and we have the same thing on this big kind of baldacchino looking thing. Technically it's called a ciborium, but it looks like a baldacchino. We have the same thing on the top of it and a beautiful picture of Joseph passing away.
Oh, the sleep of St. Joseph.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's amazing. So anyway, so St. Joseph's kind of a patron for our seminary too.
Right. So in this, you look down and it's got St. Joseph. And I never noticed it. If you're ever in St. Louis, you got to call them and ask them. I think they're closed on Tuesdays. But to get into this church, and there's this guy who is the tour guide there, and he made mention one time of the hand of Joseph wrapped around the Christ child Jesus, and Jesus is holding Joseph's finger, his index finger. Jesus is maybe 6 at this age. But Joseph is this young man with flowing hair. He doesn't look like a gray old dude with a white beard like me. And he's got his hand is gently around the shoulder of St. Joseph. And St. Joseph, not baby Jesus, 9 pounds, 6 ounce little baby Jesus, 6-year-old Jesus is holding Joseph's hand.
Wow.
It's just this beautiful image. And this, so I was praying with it and sort of just this is the beauty of art. We talked about the beauty of art a couple of weeks ago with Father O'Brien and how art makes us think. It was the Iconoclasm Heresy podcast. How art makes us think. And I was thinking like Joseph, yes, he did a couple things. He taught Jesus how to work because he would have learned the tricks of the trade. He would also have taught with Mary would have taught him the life of prayer because Joseph would have been gone all day. She would have taught him the life of prayer and sort of kindness to other people because they would be around. Even how to cook, how to clean, how to do laundry, how to do all these things, but also how to pray because Mary is this awesome prayer because when the angel shows up, what does she do? She talks to the angel. She has this rational conversation with this angel. And then she prays like the women of the scriptures. Moses' sister when they come out of the Red Sea, she has that hymn of horse and chariot you have cast into the sea. And Mary sings this hymn just like all the other women in the scriptures and throughout the scriptures. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. And from her heart just booms this life of prayer.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is cool to think about, too, as you brought this up earlier, I was thinking Joseph would have taught or Jesus as well how to pray, but in the particular liturgical setting of Jewish prayer, like going to the synagogue to like learn the Torah and to kind of be brought into the environment of like the men coming together to pray and study the Torah. Like Joseph would have been the one teaching Jesus to do that. And that kind of really resonated with what we were talking about earlier about how important it is that fathers are leading and teaching in a church environment their families like how to pray, and that prayer is the center of the father's heart. One sister that I absolutely love and people have heard of probably is Sister Miriam.
She's so good.
Awesome. She's amazing. She gave this talk.
That's like a crush I have on somebody.
Who doesn't? She's so holy.
She's beautiful and holy, and she's a sister.
Her smile heals. It's unreal.
Indeed. And you're like, Sister Miriam,
Can you just come walk around our church and just talk to people, and people will just fall over being healed with joy and life? And anyway, she was saying in this talk that she gave to a bunch of priests, and my spiritual director sent it to me. And in the talk, she said this phrase that's just been hitting me over and over in prayer. She said, "A community is only as healthy as the heart of its father." And that just like super
say that
resonated.
Again?
A community is only as healthy as the heart of its father. And she was talking about it in relation to priests and like parishes, and that if a priest isn't like praying and leading and teaching how to be immersed in the life and the Spirit and prayer and all that, then there's no way that a family of faith is going to follow if the father's heart isn't living in that space with the Lord. Whoa. And so similarly, it just has really, I've seen it everywhere, like in family life, in even just, all kinds of, any kind of community really, whoever the father of a community is, whoever the father of the family is, if his heart is not healthy and hasn't been healed by the presence of God found in the sacramental life of the church, in prayer and adoration, in rich relationship with other holy men, then a family will not be healthy. A family's only as healthy as the heart of its father.
Well, and that comes from Sister Miriam
Heidland, I think is her last name.
That's Salt.
Yeah, they're Salt Sisters, Society of Our Lady of the Trinity, I think. So they're like a missionary community. Yep.
She gives talks at Focus conferences.
Look up anything from her. She's awesome. That's the only person you have permission to listen to besides Pastors of Pain.
Oh.
Is that not what we do? We don't do selfless or just shameless self-plugging?
Shameless plugging. Pete FM. Shameless plugging.
That's awesome.
Jay McCrae. Just shameless plugging. We do it all the time.
So, but it's been striking me, like a year of St. Joseph, I think it's super, it's a testament to our father, spiritual father, Pope Francis, that he's calling us to have attention and be attentive to the characteristics of St. Joseph, because it really is something that, at least like we've talked about, I've noticed like in the church, we tend to lack having a draw or an attractive space for men to come into the church and be present and be leading in our church environments.
So. Right. This is actually something we're doing this little. Robert and I have been talking about this, but I've been talking about it with a number of leaders. Is we're looking at the numbers of men involved in their life of faith, and it's plunging. It's plunging. It's like it's hard to find large amounts of men, or even sometimes small amounts of men involved in their faith life. It's the Euro 2020 has been going on. And what are the stands full of? They're full of dudes.
Yep.
They're full of guys cheering and screaming for their team, wanting victory for their team. And then on Sunday, we don't see them. In Australia, they were talking about, it was like Australian rules football. Every Sunday, Australian rules football. There's guys cheering for their team. And the bishop said, these men are not making it to the church to cheer for the glory of God.
Yeah.
They're not here to cheer on the life of faith.
Yeah, and just cheer on other people in the parish community in their walk with the Lord. Because I feel like that's one of the gifts that we bring to the table as men, is to like a word from the Father. I mean, in literally the imitation of God the Father, his word is another person, is Christ, the very means of our salvation. I think similarly, kind of analogously, on the human level, us spiritual fathers or fathers, our word has so much power to speak a bold word of encouragement to others in our family, our wives, our kids, but in the parish community, other men, other younger men, to speak bold words of encouragement, or even some hard words of correction, are such a place of experiencing formation and maturity. And I don't think we at times have done a good job of giving men permission in a parish setting to really have that kind of a conversation together.
I don't even, okay. I don't know if men, us being men, a lot of us have been taught the life of faith, the life of prayer, that it hasn't been passed down to us in some ways, because and it just goes down the line, like their fathers didn't teach them and the fathers before them. And like my dad, he didn't grow up with a dad because his dad was killed when he was 5.
Wow.
Crossing the street, his dad was hit and killed by a car.
Wow.
In New York City. So that was not passed down to my dad. And so my dad passed down to me what he could have.
Yeah.
What
and
he
you can't
had.
give what you don't have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you passed down to me like the desire to build things beautiful, to do excellent work, to take care of your family, to go to church on Sunday, to have a life of prayer at Mass. But then there's other things I didn't get. And so what I'm also noticing, just like statistics. So I was studying space communications and electrical engineering. So I love stats. I love numbers. Now, do calculus? No way. I got to like through Calc 1 and I realized the leap between Calc 1 and everything else is like my brain is not capable of doing it. But I still love accumulating stats.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the stats that are out there. And the stats are like, the high divorce rate, 52% divorce rate. So moms and dads divided.
Yep.
Dad's not in the home. Dad's not with their kids. My friends that I have that are divorced, sadly, they don't see their kids that often.
Yeah.
And moms are taking this load, which is beautiful. Like
courageous
act that these mothers are raising both boys and girls. And then the dads are not involved in there. So therefore the dads are not teaching, are not able to teach the faith in the home or teach their sons or their daughters how to pray, or as you said, to give that encouraging word from the Father. Yeah. Now, we got all that.
Right.
Read us the numbers.
Yeah. I mean, so there's been a couple of studies. I mean, obviously they're different within different groups, but like one was I think from like Lifeway, which is like a Christian organization that kind of polls all different denominations of Christianity, and then there was another one like in the Washington area specifically that was like polling and asking tons of questions from all different men's ministries things, but they kind of both came at around the same numbers, where I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was when a mom is kind of come to Christ, come into relationship with Jesus, and is leading the spiritual life of her kids and bringing them to church, and it's just her. The kids, like if you had 100 kids, like 17% or like 7 of them on average would continue to practice the faith after leaving the home.
After high school.
They
leave high school.
And 17 out of 100.
And mom has done what the Blessed Virgin Mary did.
She is.
Mom has like taught them how to pray and taught them how to be kind to others and taught them the scriptures and the life and relationship and taken them to Sunday Mass.
Right, exactly. And then I think it was for men it was if the father is leading, especially this. They didn't say anything about if it was only the father, but it was an environment where it was the father leading, but the father and mother like working together to form the kids in the spiritual life. Then the stat went all the way up to 93% of kids would continue to practice their faith after leaving high school. So huge jump, 17 to 93%. And I just think, it shows like that God's God, and when he designs and creates something, he creates it good. And he creates it in a way that it works well, and there's obviously things that are outside of every family's control, and there's ways that all of us experience some kind of brokenness in our family, but generally speaking, where a father and mother are leading together in docility to God in their family and are leading their spiritual life of their family well, and kids are seeing both their mother and father praying and leading with one heart for God, kids are going to follow that because there's security there and there's an identity-defining relationship they see in their parents that they want to emulate and follow.
Wow, beautiful. It's John Paul II. His like as a kid, his mother taught him the faith.
Yeah,
and his dad was a military officer, and he says like of the things that were the most important moments in his life was 1, his baptism, 2 is like being raised with his mother. And also watching his dad pray.
Yeah.
Like it's in his mind when his dad took him to the Franciscan monastery. Oh, it's just north of Wadowice. I've been to it a number of times. I can't remember the name of it. And his dad said, this is your mother now, and pointed to the Blessed Virgin Mary. And his pectoral cross is still there today.
Wow.
So also with this, Robert, I think there's something else, is that I just, this Jim Gaffigan had this joke. No, it wasn't Jim Gaffigan. It was another comedian who has, I forget his name. But anyway, this comedian said, hey, so your friend Mike, he's having a really tough time in life.
Yeah.
So would you go out and play golf with him? And they go out and play golf, and husband comes back and talking to his wife, and she says, so what did you and Mike talk about? We talked about golf clubs and beer, and golf carts, and like clothing and the weather. And she's like, did you talk to him about what's going on in his life? And she said, and he goes, well, we didn't get to that. It's like 18 holes, 4 hours, and you didn't get to it. Are men having meaningful conversations about their life of faith, what's going on in the depths of their hearts? Are they able to get that stuff out and talk? You've been working on college campuses. Do you think that as an SPO missionary, St. Paul Outreach, shameless plug, St. Paul's Outreach, SPO, do you feel like when you were working on the college campuses that young men knew how to have meaningful conversations? What are the steps to doing that?
Yeah. I mean, in general, no, because I think so much of our conversation as men revolves around what we do rather than who we are. So instead of our identity being first and the place we live out of, we tend to kind of over-relate always on what we're doing. So here's my job, or here's what I'm majoring in, here's what I want to do with my life, which is a good thing. But it can tend to, as men especially, which is another good characteristic we have, which is we're really competitive, and we tend to just compare and compare and contrast all the time, like me versus him in this area or that area. And it can lend itself to that spirit of comparison can lend itself to not ever feeling safe enough or comfortable enough to share something kind of deeper, like relational and identity, like here I am and not just what I do. So I would say in general, no. Because there is a sense that it's kind of we tend to just kind of go to the shallowest level, and because we didn't have, like we were talking about earlier, older men kind of showing us when and where it's appropriate and in what settings to have those kind of meaningful conversations, we tend to then just kind of associate or lump that all into that's kind of a more feminine characteristic. That's not for us to be sharing our feelings and stuff. Like
Gretchen and Alicia, what did they said? We talk about the readings for Mass together.
Right. We talk about what we prayed about this morning. Yeah, we talk about what the Lord is putting on our hearts. And I think as men, we need to start doing that more. And that's not always just emotions. It's sharing, really what it is sharing God's work in us. Like, what is God doing? What has God been doing in your life?
Okay, so how do you come to know what, for the dudes out there who are listening to this, or the dudes, the wives out there or girlfriends who are like, hey, honey, you need to listen. You need to listen to these priests.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing that's really hard is and I mean, maybe some people would think this is controversial, but my experience has been is that you can't learn how to live as a mature, holy man except from other men who are already walking that walk. And so I think what you need to do is surround yourself or find a man who's living a intentional and directional spiritual life, like a man who's found his identity in God, and from that has a mission that he's convicted about. Like, here's what God is calling me to do as a man. And then ask him how he developed that relationship with Christ, and ask him to kind of help teach and mentor you to learn how to hear God's voice in your life and what God is calling you to do. And that's where I really think that we've lost kind of that initiating younger men into maturity and into fullness of manhood. Because like we said before, we don't have a lot of environments or spaces for that, especially with technology now. We all can just kind of dive into distraction rather than need to seek out those mentorship-like relationships. So, but that's the first thing I would say.
Okay, so find other dudes. But how do you find those dudes? Oh, okay, so I'm going to flip this. Guys in parishes, should they be looking out for other men to mentor and help?
Yeah, absolutely. I think older men especially should be finding oh, wow, there's a younger guy in church. Be bold. All of us, I think in our hearts, there's a place as a man where we ask the question, am I man enough? Do I have what it takes to respond to the burdens of life? Do I have the paciencia, the patience, the endurance to endure in long-term suffering and actually become a virtuous man? And so if you're an older man who has a lot of those experiences or gifts or developed the Christian virtues of masculine virtues, look for those younger guys because they're desperate for someone to encourage them in that way, and go and build a relationship with them. Invite them out to coffee, have a conversation before work, maybe invite them over to your family's house, have dinner with them, and kind of witness your family life and let them see a good lived, like holy Christian family life. I mean, that would be number one. And then if you're a younger guy, don't be scared. Like, don't be scared to ask for help. Like, go find an older, holier man in your parish, or you see like a man who's coming to daily mass regularly. Go talk to him and say, "Hi, I've noticed you are here at mass all the time, and you seem like a man of real deep prayer. Could we grab coffee sometime? And I'd love to hear how you came to know the Lord." And go have a conversation with him and learn from him.
Yeah,
boldness. Men, we love to be bold. We just need to give one another permission to be bold,
and challenge each other. Someone made reference to the ethnic churches of America and how they got so elaborate and wild looking and built is because it was the competitive nature of men. They're like, there's no way you're going to have a better Marian procession than us.
Yeah, I totally see that.
I mean, there's no way you're going to have a more beautiful church than ours.
Right.
And this competitive nature was there. Now,
right. All things in prudence, obviously. Like it's not competition to find my identity.
Right.
It's competition lived out of a secure identity in Christ. And that's the difference. So it's the difference between like Paul and some like miserable, wealthy CEO who does everything to try and make up for the lack he has interiorly of like, I work 90 hours a week. I never spend time with my family, all that, versus like Paul, who was always doing and sharing and preaching, but out of his relationship with the Lord. And he was always raising up like younger men. I mean, you look at like Barnabas, or like he had these relationships of kind of being mentored by other older men and then raising up younger men and having a band of brothers, peers that he was running with as well, kind of in Timothy, Barnabas, etc. So.
Right. You made mention of like Sister Miriam. Let's go back to Sister Miriam, the Salt Sister.
I'm always down talking
She
about.
Is like, there's a few religious sisters. There's a religious sister of Mercy who gives talks at focus conferences. Sister Miriam, they all go around and talk at parishes.
Yeah.
And you said this line from her to priests. And what was the line she gave to priests?
It was that the family or community is only as healthy as the heart of its father.
So this also means...
Speaks to the genius of femininity. That it draws us out. It draws out of man his gifts of masculinity. At least that's what I've noticed, is like women who are very, very holy and zealously living their faith life, when they live that and hold that standard in the genius of their own femininity, it calls out of young men, or just men in general, to rise to that same standard in their own giftedness as men. And so I think to have holy, zealous, beautiful women like holding a high standard, a high banner of faith as well, is also a huge gift to men.
Yeah. Fulton Sheen's got a really great quote on that y'all can look up. It is really, that line is though also for priests. It's like how, and for husbands.
Yeah.
And for college age men, and for guys recently graduated, and for high schoolers. It's like, how is your heart being developed in union with the Lord?
Yeah.
And to ask that of each other.
Yeah.
How, I mean, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like, oh, we don't talk about this. We talk about sports or politics or whatever. No, we need to talk to each other's hearts.
Yeah.
Heart speaks to heart, as it says.
Is that Newman, right?
Yeah, Newman.
Yeah. And that, because healed people heal people, hurt people hurt people. And if you haven't let your heart, and that's just not just the feeling side, but let your heart rest in the healing presence of God, you have nothing to share, you have nothing to give. And so we need to learn how to speak heart to heart with Christ in prayer so that we can share that same love with those that we lead and are responsible for as men.
Beautiful. It is the year of St. Joseph, so ask St. Joseph to help us to pray for the men of our parishes and take him as a model for holiness. You have spent this last 29 and a half minutes with the pastors of Pain.
Yep. And friend.
Peace.